Lewisham is a home to many untold stories. Listen, engage and learn from 4 individuals who have shaped the borough in their own unique way.
The reason why I started it after leaving St. Thomas's Hospital after my second daughter, I started doing a bit of caring job at Ladywell. Then I thought to myself, I didn't want to do caring for the rest of my life. But I had an accident at London Transport, and that is when I went off medically sick, and I was indoors, depressed. I'm not used to be. And then I've got a niece that she was a teacher at Croydon, but she had friends that, and she always visit, and I said to her, Geraldine, I'm just fed up just sitting here doing nothing. She said, why don't you start doing a bit of voluntary work?
I am a representative of the 15 people who used to run the project. Now, it's not the same 15 persons run the project all the time. Some were with us for 5 years and moved, some died, and all the sort of things that happened. The Almighty has given me overtime. That's the only way I can describe it. Where I was in the project from its inception, and I'm here now to tell you the story. And I'm the longest serving member of that body of people.
I'll be 70 in November, and there's been quite a lot happen and lots of transition from leaving Jamaica to coming to England and getting married and then coming back and then living on the same road. So I've lived on my road for over 50 years. So I'm one of the older neighbours, as my mum passed away last year. So I've got that legacy now of being the older neighbour on the road. So we've always had a tradition of being very neighbourly. So we keep that warm and friendly, open atmosphere. And most people that come along, they say, oh, they really love this road because everyone's so friendly.
I've always loved dancing, really. I'd have loved to have gone to a ballet school and studied classical ballet. But coming from a very large background, large family, my mum couldn't afford to send me to ballet school. However, the dance that I got in my school was very good, because when I went to university, what they were teaching me at university, I basically knew already. And to be honest, I wasn't completely happy with the dance that they taught. And I would go outside and have extra dance classes because I love jazz music and jazz dancing and so forth. And the music is essential to my work, very much so. I remember, back in the day when I used to go clubbing, I used to go to a really nice club and they'd have imported jazz funk music. And I'd be rushing off to get something that's new and vibrant for my dance lessons.
At the Markings of Granbury, there was a barber shop run by 2 brothers from Jamaica. And most of the Caribbean people barber shop usually have a lot of people in there waiting to get their hair cut. And there would be different discussions going on about their life in Britain and what's happening and so on. Now, just across the street from the barber shop is a wall, still there. So our young men used to, on that wall, hanging out there, and they were gradually getting into gangs, learning how to pickpocket and things of that nature. And in the barbershop, some of us were saying, look, we have to try and help these young men not to end up in prison. And we had a situation at that time where young girls were going to churches with their mother to go to 5-hour services to study while they're in the church and becoming degree graduates. The boys were there either getting into trouble, or there are some with their dad learning mechanic work because they all wanted a car to attract the girls, that sort of thing. Now, the men in the barber shop would argue that if these fellows turn up at their house trying to get involved with their daughters for marriage, they would run out the house and all the rest and all the rest. That was the attitude, okay? We, a few of us, decided something had to be done, because whatever the chap in the barber shop was saying, the reality was that some of these fellows did meet the young girls, and the girls, some of them never finished their exams. They came home with first prize, the grand salary, you see? So, we knew of a situation where a woman called Sybil Phoenix, she had a big house at Sicilian Road, and she used to help look after young black children who the council had no place for them when the mothers couldn't cope and so on and so on. So she cared for quite a number of these children, and these are some of the children growing up. So she knew a lot of the young men between the ages of 10, 18 that had been growing up. And we got together with her and was trying to find somewhere where the young men could meet and try and get to encourage them to go back into education and so on. And the council wouldn't help us, the church wouldn't help us. They had church buildings empty. But down at Pagnell Street was all the bummed out houses, and you know, it was really a bad sight. And they had a whole mission hall there that was in a half stage of ruin. Well, at the time I was working at Naval College, and they used to occasionally strip out electrical stuff and so on from the college and replace other stuff. And I started to gather stuff from the Naval College and get the department van at that time to dump it at the church hall.
So Geraldine as well, my niece, she knew somebody that was working at the law center in Deptford. So I went there, started to do a bit of volunteer, do a bit of filing and answering the phone, little bits and pieces around. But there was one solicitor there, that youngish girl, and she used to say, "Richie, come on, come and listen to what is going on." But most of her work was dealing with domestic violence and welfare rights and things like that. So she said to me, "You're so good talking to these ladies and encouraging them." And she said, "I think you should try and do this job, you know." She said, "Come and listen." And she said, "You're good doing that." I said, "You think so?" She said, "Yes." So she said, "Look, I am going to try and get you to go and do a course." So she helped me to apply to Lewisham College, and I went and I did the course, and I passed. It's my certificate that I have from them here. And that's how I started to do this volunteer work. But I was doing it before I complete the course. I was sort of doing it at the law center a bit. Then after I passed and I was qualified now to do it, we applied for a space at Lewisham Council.
It's consistency. And if people see you there and you're there all the time, and whether it's an up day or a down day, whatever's going on and whatever the climate is at the time, and you can reach out in the best way, in a quiet way or a hands-on way, or just know that that person's nearby if they need some assistance.
This picture of me when I was 16. Got a lovely story. A guy knocks on my door and said, "Can I take some photos of you?" And I said, "Well, okay then." So I did. And that was taken in Mayor Park. I did have a chaperone. And this is me when I was at university. It was a 3-year course. And it was called the art of movement back in the day. But I wasn't really satisfied with the dance that they taught me, but never mind. I think when I did my first teaching post, which was in North London, I met a really lovely lady who was the dance specialist, and we worked really well together. And she loved dance, the jazz style of music and so forth. And I learned a lot from her. Short time there, but it was still good. And then I went to my comprehensive school that I grew up as a child, and it was like the job was made for me, really. Returning to an environment that I knew very well, and the staff knew me too, because then I taught alongside of them. It's a picture of me here in the school gymnasium, and this dance was for a special occasion, and we performed this dance in Sadler's Wells. So as well as dancing in the school environment, we did a lot outside. Here is something that I did with my students, and we joined up with the boys' school. I choreographed a dance called My Baby Just Cares For Me, Nina Simone, and they performed this at Lewisham Concert Hall, that's in the community, and they got first prize. So I was really pleased about that. And there's a certificate that they got. It was a Lewisham Music Dance Drama Festival. That was the only one I did, and that was in 1983.
They said they didn't have anywhere at first, but then when they were asked from another center, that was Evelyn Street Center, they asked Lewisham that they had a building, and they asked Lewisham if they could allow us to have our surgery there when they are not using their interview rooms. And Lewisham replied and said they had two interview rooms at John Henry House, that's off the Verdant Lane. And that's where I started my little surgery there.
A lot of our skilled men came and helped us to dig the place out the ground and fit it out so that the young people could gather there. And eventually, the young men came, and we tried to get them to settle down, to try to learn to read and write, because many of them were illiterate. They were expelled from schools and all the rest. So, while we were trying to do that, we also had to try and get something that would attract them in a way that allowed them to want to come to the project. And at that time, football turned out to be the thing, before it was called the beautiful game. And so they formed a football team, and what we did was to say, look, you can become a member of the football team, but only if you're going to come to classes to learn to read and write as well. And of course, suddenly everybody started to take an interest and so on. And we got teachers from our community who came in and started to help to train them. And because of the interest that was created, the young men brought their friends, and that they wanted it to be their club. At that time, the police was very hostile in dealing with the young black men. But the young men had become so keen on the Moonshot Club that they had decided that no police or anybody was going to create a situation where they couldn't operate there. So what the young men did so them, they went and learned karate. Yes, and when the police came by, because what used to happen, Lewisham Police Station was a section of the police group in Lewisham that got people, new young policemen from the other side of the country who had never seen black people or learning about them. But they heard things, and because of the racism, they always want to punch up to club up black people. But also, they're also clamoring for whites, because you see, That part of London here, by the Marcus, was the poor area. They run down here with poor whites as well. So the police used to beat hell out of whites as well as young black people. However, when the young people learned to do karate and so on and so forth, they had a few exchanges with the police in other parts of the Lewisham, because the young people knew where the police reside. They used to have certain sections of where they resided. And the police realized that these young people were taking things very seriously. So they started to back off. And with the police backing off, our project began to attract more young people because word got around and the girls started coming to the club at Panel Street. And weekend they used to have dances there for them to enjoy themselves a little bit. That was how Moonshot started to develop. We invited Prince Charles to come and see the place. And when he came down there, he got the shock of his life. He didn't realize that there was anywhere in Britain that looked so awful. And he said, and his words were, that the place looked like the back of the moon, the old bombed out buildings all around where we were and all the rest. And he spoke about it, and it got in the newspaper and so on, and then we formed a charity. And by forming the charity, and because of what he said, we could beg money to run the project, because Lewisham Council wouldn't give us money to run the project. So we went on from there, and our young people went back into the colleges and so forth and started to educate themselves. And some of them did so well that they became degree graduates and end up lecturing at Goldsmiths College. Yes, became some lecturers at Goldsmiths College. Imagine leaving the Marquis Wall, almost illiterate, I end up lecturing at Goldsmiths College.
I have worked in the borough for 40 years. So that means that I've had an impact, well I hope, a good impact on the life of my students. Some of them I am still friends with, which is really lovely. I've been to their weddings, so I have that respect with them, you know, that mutual love of the work that we've done together, and they respect me as their teacher, and now I'm their friend, which is lovely. So yes, so when I'm out and about in the borough, I'll always come across students and they'll, you know, recognize me, or I might recognize them first. Yeah, I hope I have had a good impact on them. I know they say to me, "Oh, miss, you were very strict, but you were fair." And I think that's a good comment to say, I was strict but fair. And I've always been like that. I think I've always had a good relationship with my students. Yeah. Because I've been in the school, I've had to be, well, not had to be. I did apply for a post of head of year, which meant a lot of responsibility. And this is my year group in 1994. That's about 180 girls I was responsible for, as well as leading a team of tutors. And one of my mottos, I suppose, is always to work hard, to be pleasant, polite, and well-behaved. Those things are very essential. And to support all of them, because when they are about to leave school, as well as doing their everyday, you know, yearly reports, I have to write a report about my students so that they can get a place in university or college, or to support them for further once leaving the school. And I've always enjoyed doing that too. And of course, the other side of my work is the parents. They have been supportive, very, very supportive. And, you know, you're always getting new students coming in, and some little child might come to me and say, "Oh, miss, you taught my mom." I said, "Yes, that's correct. As long as I haven't taught your grandmother," because that would mean I'd be ancient. But yes.
Biggest accomplishments was to continue my family life, because family is number one to me. Family, colleagues, friends and neighbours. People are very important to me. I get emotional. Sorry. We see so many people come and go, and the world, as we say, we want a better place. I have 5 grandchildren, and my second eldest granddaughter, she's now in university. My first granddaughter's in university, and I have a 16-year-old and 2 16-year-olds now, because my second grandchild, boy child, he was 16 on the 3rd, and now I have a 14-year-old, so there's 5 grandchildren. And life can be so challenging for people of colour, because when I came off the aeroplane in 1961, that's when Jamaica got its independence. And I came with my big dolly, Joan and Joanna, and the dolly was as big as me, and it was actually a present from a factory where they were making dollies, but this dolly had a bit of deformity, and so I just got it for free, and she travelled with me, so she was my companion. And when I was coming off the BOAC aeroplane, that was one of the last flights, so the I think it was a Mirror newspaper took a shot of me coming down, and I was actually in the newspaper as one of the last passengers on the BOAC flight in 1961.
Well, I was impressed really, because although I was doing bits and pieces regarding that sort of project, I thought myself, well, I'm old and I'm not college trained or anything. But I was quite surprised really that I could manage to do something like doing a course passing and set up a little project and managing. So then I met Sandra there.
So I met Mrs. Richards in, I think it was 1991, and we started working together, and slowly she became like just a bigger presence in my life. I grew up in Care in Greenwich, and Mrs. Richards and her husband, they gave me the balance that I never had before of understanding lots of things about my African heritage, from food, hair, stories, just all sorts. And I felt like she was really just part of my life that had been missing, and I'm 31 at this time. So I said to her one day, I said, you know what, I said, I'm going to make you my mum. I said, and it's kind of like, that's been it, but it's sort of struggles that I was going through. Finally, I had this nurturing, wise person to go to, and she never made me feel bad or stupid or anything. So just always love and compassion for what I was going through, always trying to give me, she gave me lots of good advice. I found some of it hard to take, like to actually follow through. And even though the project had to fold in 1994, our bond that got created during that time and the work that we did, she's forever my mum.
She came in, she was suffering abuse. She'll tell you anyway. And I said to her, well, why don't you come and sit? I tried to help her, and we talked on that, and she says, yes. And she came, and she started to work with me, and then we set up a committee. But these ladies that set up the committee for us, we got funding from SOS Oil Company, and they took that funding and trained the committee. Anyway, it didn't matter to us because we was just keep going. But we carried on the best way we can. We had several clients that come in, and we had one of the committee member introduced us to the police station at Brockley Housing Road, and we had a wonderful police officer there, woman, Pippa, and she came in, and I don't know whether she experienced the abuse or she knew what was happening, and she was brilliant. She helped us to get refuge space, injunctions, made them, and solicitors and welfare rights, and we're going very, very well. We had some funding from Lewisham Equality Unit. We had funding from the police committee thing through Pippa, and we had a bit of funding from Woolworth. They used to give us like pencils and little books and sweets and things like that for the children, because we had the 2 interview rooms, but we only had it for twice a week, 2 days a week. So we use one for a creche, because a lot of the ladies that come in with babies and children, you know, while we are interacting with them, then they leave the children in the creche. So I had two ladies that used to run the creche. So they used to feed the children and make sure that the children is okay. We even have little toys from Woolworth as well that they could play with, and funding that we had, we used to help the women. Some of them, when they arrive, they haven't got nothing to eat because they are running away, and whatever little funding we had, we used to help them with different bits and pieces, little clothing, little food. And to be quite honest, sometimes a lot of them landed up at my home. They used to come home with, I used to say, come with me. Because my husband was very supportive of it. He never sort of interfered and says, why? It's only my younger daughter here, she used to go, was mad. Because I used to come home and cry and sit down and very, very upset. And she said, Mom, why are you doing these things? My dad is not even arguing with you, never mind about hitting you. He don't touch us, he don't touch you. Why are you doing these things? I used to say, I got to help somebody. I got to help. And I used to say to her, make sure you get a job that you're going to help somebody. But so it so happens that I start to go to Jamaica now regularly, myself and my husband, on vacation, and I started to do a little bit of volunteer work out there as well. So I've got a lot of pictures, and even my Lego that I used to have to. But it's out there because I was doing a little bit of volunteer work out there. I've got a family home out there, so I used to go out there regular. So that's, but my incentive always was to help someone. And I've got family. A matter of fact, I've even got a sister that suffered terrible domestic violence. And I've got cousins and friends. And I used to sit and just wish if I could do something for them. If there's anything, what can I do? But then those days, to go to the police station, oh, it's matrimonial concern. They don't want to know. They don't do nothing. But thank God that things have changed now, that they realize that it is a big issue for domestic violence. A lot of men and women suffered in silence. And especially us as black women, we don't think that we should say, oh, my husband is beating me, you know. and I need help, everything is just quiet and covered up, but I'm glad that now that it comes to light that people can go and get help, seek help somewhere. So that was my incentive of trying to help.
Stories like these and more are all around us. Involve yourself with your community and learn from those who are before you. All of these individuals make up a community of senior citizens who have shared their stories in a book that commemorates their accomplishments in the UK.